Hey, welcome to Lessons from My Mentor. These are actual lessons taught to me by mentors over the year. In fact, the one that I'm going to share with you today is from 1996. And I was at Parkview Episcopal Medical Center in Pueblo, Colorado. My mentor was the COO for that particular year. And he taught me how to be more comfortable meeting people and engaging with people, because that's something that many of us are not real good at. And especially when we're younger, I think, because we just haven't had the experience or training, we tend to be sort of shy. And so I would be that person. I'd walk in, I'd go to these big meetings, like a hymns or something like that. Or maybe it's even smaller than a giant hymns, like a chapter. And I'd walk in there and not really know anyone. And I wouldn't talk to anyone. I was like scared. I'd always be uncomfortable. I'd figure out a way to leave or just be out of the main area and just off to the side. And then maybe when the session started, come back in. And maybe I'm a bad example there. I'm not like too shy, but that's where I started. So you may be more advanced than that, which is great. And so hopefully the kind of the tips I will share with you that I learned may help you to get to that next level. Because today I'm pretty decent at it. I don't mind coming into a room where I'm not sure about different people. I did that recently. I was a speaker at an event that was cross industry. So there was some healthcare people there and I knew them and was easier to connect with them. But there were these grocery people and these pharma people and these life science people had no idea who I was. I had no idea who they were. I knew that I was in the minority. And I knew that if I wanted to enjoy these social situations and these opportunities to connect, I had to take the first move. So in the past, I would have bailed. I would have been, like I said, kind of off to the side. But now I'm like, I know a few things now. I know how to approach a situation. So I learned these things also because my mentor told me to go to these sources. Larry King, so he's going to kind of show like my generation, but Larry King for sure, like one of the greatest interviewers ever, and Zig Ziglar. And basically what they would tell you is ask questions. That's all you have to do is ask questions. So it is awkward if you just stand there and you go up to a group and introduce yourself and you just like don't say anything, or you meet with someone, or you're even afraid to meet with them. You don't know what to say. So you kind of stay there and don't talk. Just ask a question. People love to talk about themselves. It's just kind of a natural thing. So the majority of people, they love to be asked questions about themselves and they're happy to share. And that's all you have to do. And so that was one of the key learnings. So it worked. So I started doing it. I just go up to people and I'd ask questions. And sure enough, they would answer those questions, which led to another question. And then I would try to find some commonality. Now, it's true because many of them are untrained that they may not ask you a question, right? It's like a one-way conversation, and those are no fun. So I usually don't stick with those too long, but I try. So I'll like ask 3, 4, 5 questions. And if that person does not reciprocate in any sort of way, I'll sort of extricate myself in a very loving way. But at least I tried. So all you have to do is come up with 3 or 4 questions. And they could be as silly as the typical one you normally hear about something about the weather, but then you can go to sports, or you can talk about that speaker or the agenda or whatever it is that you're there for, talk about that. So if you're at a tennis tournament, then maybe talk about, the new documentary on Netflix called Match Point, whatever. There's some things. And then, as I said, if they ask questions back, you're going to triangulate on some commonalities. Like, wow, you love John McEnroe? Wow, he was my hero and I had his racket. And, you can go down a lot of different ways. And then you get more meaningful conversation, right? You get that surfacey stuff and then you can go deeper and deeper. And that's how you do it. So that first lesson is ask questions. So I was so convinced how this works after trying it myself that I did it with my kids. And I remember, so when we were flying, when our family was just 4 people, right, we would take 3 in one row and someone would be the odd person out and they would be in a row by themselves. And so I usually did that to one of my kids. And the goal and the lesson, the goal, the instruction was to get to know the person sitting next to them. And I taught them, ask them questions. So my kids, like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And so I would hear them and they'd be having these conversations with these other adults. And I'd ask them afterwards if I didn't hear, like, how did it go? What did you talk about? Did they ask you questions? And they become more and more comfortable with it. So that's like a good little test, but you can you can test and train your children as well. I mean, I wish I had that training when I grew up. I did not. And so I had to gain it as an adult. But if I had to guess, probably only, I don't know, 20-25% of us are decent at this. And so don't feel awkward, because the people that's going to talk about next, like breaking into a conversation, they're probably glad you're doing that, because they're probably like sitting there thinking, I don't know what to ask next. I don't know how to deal with this. Someone help me. They're not saying that, but they might be feeling that. I've been there. I know it happens with other people. So that's the next thing. So first thing, ask questions. People love to talk about themselves, simple questions, triangulate on commonalities, and then you go from there. You're off to the races. People will think you're an amazing conversationalist. Always to ask back, right? Don't be that person that I described earlier that is just one way, all about themselves. Always ask back questions. All right, breaking into the conversation, right? You walk into that cocktail reception, everyone's already paired up. You came in late or whatever, and so you're kind of like they're awkward. I've been there. I had to laugh because that was me, man. I was like most awkward person. I would literally leave sometimes. I felt bad. Like literally, I go to these things, I go back to my hotel room or something, and then it's like, geez, that was so bad. So you just break in. So look for someone, sometimes people say if it's an odd number, that's an easier one to break into. Because if they're even, they might already be paired off. So if there's 4 people, there might be 2 different conversations going and they're paired off. So if you come in, there's a 3 or 5, definitely a 1. It tends to work a little bit better, but it's no hard and fast rule. But you just come in, and there's a couple different ways of doing it. You don't want to come in brash and like interrupt them and my name is Ed and start shaking everyone's hand. But you just might want to come in there, make eye contact. That's another thing. And then listen and then engage. And again, asking questions. So someone says something, about the last concert they saw, and they said it was Taylor Swift, and you might be, oh, I went to Taylor Swift with my daughter as well. How does that rank in all the different types of concerts you've ever been to? Ask a question. So you're revealing a little bit about yourself, ask a question. So always ask a question and you're going to be good. So that's how you break in. Again, my style is to be sort of gently coming in, not too loud or bodacious, and then just work your way into the conversation. And then you're going to have a much better experience, and you're going to meet cool people. And then the more you do that, then the next time, so some of these conferences, right, are 2 or 3 days, like the one I referenced that I went to. I think I spent 3 nights there. So it was definitely 3 full days. And so that first day, I'm glad I met all these people and asked them questions, because then on the second day that I knew people, and then like on the third day, there's like breakfast tables, and that's another awkward situation, right? It's like, where do I sit? Never sit by yourself. Never start your own table. So go where there's other people. And now I knew some people, right? I didn't know them before, but because I took the step and introduced myself at a cocktail reception, now I knew some people. And then they've got buddies that come over, and then you learn from each other. And again, at these tables, just ask questions and sit next to people. So I've done this before, where you go to the table, you start your own table, and you're by yourself. Bad. That's really bad. The second one is you go to a table that's half full and you sit by yourself at that half full table. Bad, because you may end up there alone. Don't think that it's going to fill in every time. So just sit next to someone. And so that's what you do. You have the conversation. This is a pretty short message, but I know it's going to help some people, because there have to be people like me who super scared, super intimidated, and afraid. And so just go up, ask people questions, and pretty soon you may be the host of the party, which is the very last lesson. And I believe this also comes from Larry King. Act as if you're the host of whatever it is, the reception, the party, and look around for people who might be alone, who might be feeling like you. And go up to them, ask questions. They're going to be so glad that someone came up and talked to them. And you're going to be glad too. And now you got this conversation, hopefully a 2-way conversation going, and then maybe a 3rd or 4th person will join you, or you can take them and join another, 1 or 2 people that might be standing around. So think of yourself as the host. And so after you're done, you might pull out of a conversation and you might see someone else alone, or you might see, some other people talking. You go in there, just make sure, hey, how's everything going? This is a great party, great reception. So act like the host. So there, 3 or 4 key things to do at these parties, just in time for conference season here this fall. But it helped me. I hope it helps you. Thanks for watching Lessons from My Mentor.